I'm Dr. Ben Newman. I'm a coronavirus researcher with 25 years' experience working with these viruses, and I'm going to try to answer your questions. The next question is from Robert, and yeah, it's a good question. So I won't show you the question. You can read it if you're part of the Facebook group. But the idea is that we had talked earlier about, I think he's called Dr. Byram Bridle, who's a person that's saying some things that are kind of unsupported, I would say, by mainstream science. Yeah, that's a polite way of saying it. And basically urging people not to get vaccinated for reasons that I don't think make a lot of sense to people who know what they're talking about in general. Yeah. Now, this is a follow up to that, and it's saying, well, all right, there are these other couple of people, and so let's go look. And there's a whole great big list of links in there, and I've clicked on the links, so you don't have to. So let's take a look. All right, number one is here, and I'm not sure. I'm going to disappear for a sec, but there he is. Okay. So this is a guy called, and I'm not sure if it's pronounced Charles Hoff or Hoffy, but he is a doctor, I believe, up in Canada, but it sounds as though he is originally British, and he has a lot of stuff to say about vaccines, and in particular why this vaccine is bad. I would say just at the start, if you're listening to somebody and they're telling you that this vaccine, they're saying, I'm not anti-vaccine, but this particular vaccine is really bad. I don't think they're being particularly objective about that. This is a quite safe vaccine in comparison to other vaccines that have been used in the past, and it's a really, really effective vaccine compared to those. And there's actually a range of these vaccines, and the safety and effectiveness are true for all of those. So if somebody's coming out and saying that, I don't think they are using. I think they have fears, and I think they are seeing the things that back up the idea that's already in their head. So apparently this guy's origin story is, and I have no idea if any of this is credible, but that he was treating, they call First Nations, which would be like Native American or American Indian, but up in Canada. And there were a couple of bad effects, which may be connected to the vaccine. And based on this, he's been done a lot of sort of press. Now, the first thing I would point out on this video is if you look at that, look at the way there are spaces down there in the name. That's a thing that people do when they're trying to put, I don't know, the new South Park online, but it keeps getting taken down. It looks as though somebody is trying to hide this from sort of nonsense scrubbing algorithms, which means that the original version of this is probably taken down. I'm just inferring that from the very weird looking name on here. More interestingly, I think, is that there are multiple links that the doctor gives us down here. And so I also clicked on those because I'm willing to do this for you. One of them is just a kind of an article that he's contributed to, and you notice that in any of the articles that mention him, the word vaccinated is always in quotes, which I think is probably a sign that he is, I don't know if he's anti all vaccines or just anti this vaccine, but I think this isn't, I think if you had a really broad view and took lots of data in rather than sort of cherry picking little bits, I don't think a reasonable scientist would come to some of the conclusions that he's coming to. I'm trying to be very polite here, but yeah, essentially I don't think that there's any real substance to the stuff that he's saying. So that's one of the things that backs him up, which is him talking. The next thing that backs him up is messenger RNA jabs will kill most people, in quotes. Now, that is in quotes. It does seem as though they're trying to say that that's something that he has said, but that quote does not appear in the story as far as I was able to locate it. So, yeah, this may be something else that he said, but once again, his reference for this is why I think the way I think is himself saying the same thing that he just told you. So, yeah, again, I think that's kind of circular reasoning, and there is a lot more data out there than what he's talking about. So the ideas that he's talking about are that thing called D-dimer. So this is one of the breakdown products after you've made a clot and then you break it down again. This is one of the leftover bits, and this hangs around for a while, and so you can tell if a person has had a clot. There are tests that hospitals would use if somebody's coming in and they have some sort of condition where there might be clots. And also, this is actually a fine paper, and there are a couple other papers that also show the same thing, actually quite a few, which is that essentially COVID-19 causes a gigantic spike in D-dimer level because COVID-19 sets off a coagulation cascade, basically, in most people and to some extent. These things are variable, but yeah, getting the disease is almost certainly going to be associated with blood clots. And he's trying to use this to say that the vaccine that protects you from the disease will give you blood clots, which is generally the opposite of what is well supported by the science. So I don't see anything there that worries me from a scientific point of view. And if we jump over a tab, I did notice that he is referenced in this article talking about how doctors have been warned that they could face professional discipline for spreading COVID-19 misinformation, which I'm not on that board, but I can see why this would have come up, and yeah, it makes sense to me, honestly. So, yeah, somebody that is potentially in danger of no longer having a medical license because they're kind of, I don't know, because they've kind of let worry run out in front of professionalism. It's what it looks like, but I suppose, yeah, he's got a very different explanation for that, and that's okay. It's just not something where I think the science backs it up very well. All right, the next one to look at was this thing, and it's Pfizer COVID vaccines. Oh my goodness, destroy every system of the human body. You know how long you can live without a liver or a kidney or a circulatory system? Yeah, or a nervous system? The answer would be, depending on which one we're talking about, somewhere from seconds to hours. And so the grammar is weird here, but I suspect this may be translated from another language. And yeah, just the subject-verb agreement got a little mixed up there. Anyway, this one is coming from a thing called the Israeli People's Committee. I'm like, wow, that's a very big-sounding title. And so I clicked because I wanted to figure out what is the Israeli People's Committee. Here they are. The Israeli People's Committee is who we are, is these 5 people. And we have a personal empowerment course leader who's also an author, so great. We have a person with a bachelor's degree in biology, which is fine, but who's an attorney, and so that would be the professional training of this person. We have another attorney over here. So far we are 0 for 3 on people who would reasonably be expected based on their professional careers and chosen professions to have really any detailed idea what they're talking about. We've got a Master of Public Health, which is getting better. But somebody who, from the look of this, works mostly on, there we go, sort of pollution which I'm guessing maybe something like this was like water pollution, so maybe heavy metals, something like that. And you've got a physician, so maybe 1 out of 5. Yeah, I don't know anything about the physician in particular. So this doesn't look as though it is necessarily representative. It looks like a group with a very big title and a very small group. And it looks like a group that would not necessarily be expert in the things that they are talking about, which is normally the first step before people say something that seems just really out of place and really doesn't make sense. So I would say based on this, I don't know that anything that they would be saying would be considered expert advice, and certainly it goes against the sort of advice that's part of the mainstream scientific community, as in things you can publish in journals and things that are backed up with experimental science. The next one, because why not, is this thing. Look at this. This is amazing. This is stevequayle.com, and apparently he's published something about one of these people. And look at that. You got gold in there. You've got freeze-dried food. I guess the New World Order might be coming to take you over. You've got liquid silver you can drink. Fantastic. You've got, is that the, no, okay, that's not the one. There was one of these phones that was marketed to survivalists, which was actually sort of a government plant. That doesn't look like the one, or at least it's got a different name to it. You've got volcanoes, you've got Mars, you've got all kinds of stories, you've got some books and things. Which are, you got your apocalypse there, you've got a little religion, you've got a different kind of apocalypse, you've got, look at the aliens coming in there, you've got sort of techno future is bad. There's a lot of stuff on here, and in general this website does not project, it does not look like websites that normally carry factual information. Without vetting this, it looks more along the line of like an Alex Jones kind of thing. So I don't know which thing we're supposed to look at on here, but I don't see anything in here that gives me a lot of confidence that I would find sensible stuff. But I think the thing that was supposed to be quoted on here was an interview with a guy called Luc Montagne, who is, or at least was, a famous scientist. But then in the mid sort of 2000 teens, he started talking a lot about homeopathy, and then more recently he's been promoting the conspiracy theory that it was created in a laboratory, and he has been previously criticized, there we go, by other academics for using his Nobel Prize to spread dangerous messages outside his field of knowledge. Based on what I see, that looks as though that would be an accurate criticism, or at least a reasonable criticism. It's a person who has done good work in the past and was an early HIV researcher, helpful in finding that virus. And since then, at least the things that he is famous for are kind of anti-science, counter-science, counterfactual. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if there's something going on there. But I don't think there's anything that we should take very directly from his comments. These are basically all things that would seem to come with a sort of a flashing red banner. So I don't know if that answers all the questions adequately, but I see that these are people that are pushing a fairly, well, I don't know, the ideas that they're pushing are essentially that whatever science tells you is wrong, or at least specific areas. But then they don't appear to be particularly fact-based or evidence-based assertions. It honestly looks like people basically trying to work outside the area where they are expert, with just sort of chaotic results. And from the look of what we've seen today, it would appear that this is a fairly widespread opinion. I mean, when your own Wikipedia page lists in the opening little crawl up here that you've been criticized for spreading dangerous health messages outside of your field of knowledge, that's generally a sign that other people have noticed the things that I've been pointing out today. And I think this could be true for any of the others, but none of these have the prestige of Dr. Montagne. So there we go. Anyway, I think that's plenty enough on these particular topics. And yeah, there you go. That's as best I can figure, that's what these people are saying and where they're coming from. And I don't think any of it is accurate. And I think, yeah, it's not even I think, it's all of this stuff is kind of counterfactual, and that's fine. There's a nice section in the library for fiction, and yeah, it can stay there. It's a great section, one of the best. So anyway, thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr. Ben.